We are all familiar with religious relics from an early age, despite our different locales, religions, and belief systems, and the world's relics do indeed form a major part of our shared human heritage. In fact, whenever we hear the word relic, the first item that comes to mind are usually venerated physical remains or specific objects that can be associated with Christianity, thanks in large part to pop culture like Indiana Jones movies. However, relics can actually be any significant object that has survived from an earlier time that is of historical interest, and it can include old tools, texts, and vessels. Bearing that in mind, we thought it would be a good idea to look at some of the most interesting ancient relics not related to Christianity that have been discovered to date. Number 10. The Big Shigir Idol. In 1894, gold prospectors exploring a peat bog near the Russian town of Yekaterinburg stumbled across something strange. A massive carved wooden statue over 16 feet, that's 5 meters long. Carefully sanded down, the colossal statue was found to have recognizable human faces and hands on both its front and back, as well as geometric lines and other interesting design features. The mouth of its recognizable human head is an open O. After its discovery, and for more than a century, the statue was exhibited as a novelty in the museum of the local town, believed to be only a few thousand years old. However, during 2018, it was discovered that the statue was not only carved from a single larchwood log, but that it was carved 11,600 years ago, around the end of the most recent ice age. The correct dating of the statue has crushed most of the common conceptions around prehistoric art left by hunter-gatherers dating back to the ice age. Although we can't know for sure what it depicted, we should never underestimate the people who carved it. They had the necessary resources and skills, including a very nuanced perception of the world. Number 9. The Piri Reis Map. The Piri Reis Map was discovered in Istanbul's Topkapi Palace's library by German historians in 1929. Drawn on gazelle skin, the map was verified to have been drawn in 1513 by Piri Reis, a preeminent and chronicled admiral of the then Turkish Navy. In an annotation, Piri Reis noted that the map was constructed around the information he found on several other older maps in Spanish, Portuguese, and Arabic, even some that had been drawn by the explorer Christopher Columbus. The surviving fragments of the map depict the various parts of the world as it appeared to mapmakers around the 15th century. The map includes all the discovered landmasses to date, but came with one mystery. It depicts the northern coastline of Antarctica across its bottom section, which according to historians had not been discovered until 1773. To compound matters, the continent is clearly connected to South America, and it is not covered with ice, as it has been for the last 6,000 years. Several historians have claimed that the representation of Antarctica is reliable, and that it follows the layout of the continent before it became covered with ice. Number 8. The Fasting Siddhartha Sculpture. The Fasting Siddhartha Sculpture, also known as the Fasting Buddha, dates back to the 2nd or 3rd century BC. This exceptional example of Gandhara artwork was unearthed in Sikri, Pakistan during the 19th century, and continues to be one of the most outstanding artifacts from Pakistan's classical period. The sculpture depicts an exceptional degree of detail that includes high reliefs, detailed arms, armpits, ribs, and even veins. In the strict sense, the sculpture should be called the Fasting Bodhisattva, as it represents an event that occurred well before the Buddha's enlightenment. On his spiritual journey, Siddhartha Gautama sought out a variety of self-denying rituals, including 49 days of meditation and no food, until he resembled a living corpse. Eventually, he came to the realization that knowledge and depth of understanding, not physical impoverishment, would give rise to his enlightenment. The sculpture was presented to the Lahore Museum of Pakistan in 1894, where it can be found on display to this day. Number 7. The Nebra Sky Disc. The Nebra Sky Disc has generated a fair amount of controversy. From the looters who initially unearthed the object with metal detectors, to the subsequent court hearings and the continued disputes between archaeologists and even claims of retaliation, the disc remains one of Germany's most celebrated prehistoric objects. Many academics believe that it is the oldest known accurate depiction of the cosmos, possibly an astronomical measurement tool that was used as an ancient astronomical clock to calculate planting and harvesting times. The relic was allegedly discovered in 1999 in Nebra in Germany by looters who attempted to sell it on the black market. Due to numerous contradictions in the looters' stories on exactly how the artifact was obtained, historians continue to explore its exact origins and history to this day, but it is generally believed to be from the Bronze Age around 3,500 years ago. The Sky Disc was eventually recovered by law enforcement agents posing as dealers, and the looters were brought to justice. Today it is on display in the State Museum of Prehistory in Halle. Number 6. The Ancient Plains. It's normal to find unexplainable artifacts in Egypt, but just like the famous Saqqara bird, several relics that mimic aircraft designs have been found throughout Central and South America. The Quimbaya artifacts specifically were found in Colombia. The Quimbaya civilization, dated around 1000 CE, created numerous items that represent modern aircraft from pure gold. Some of these relics even seem to have detailed tail struts and propellers, leading many to speculate that the ancient Colombians might have grasped the concept of aerodynamics and that these relics could be scale models of actual aircraft or gliders of some sort. The presence of so many parallels to modern-day aircraft underpins the out-of-place artifact theory made popular by a variety of pseudo-archaeologists and ancient alien theorists who claim that the items appear much too sophisticated for the Quimbaya. Although the Quimbaya created numerous different types of gold artifacts, over 120 in fact were recovered from looters by the government, the general public's attention remains focused on those that are believed to be too advanced for their civilization. Number 5. The Jade Discs. The Jade Discs, also known as Discs, are circular, flattened rings that were made during the late Neolithic period. They seem to have been of significant importance, as they were usually placed on the bodies of aristocrats and have been found in almost every single one of the significant tombs of the Hongshan culture and continued through to the Liangzhu culture 3800 BC to 2000 BC. Because they were created in an era in which no metal tools or instruments were produced, the manner in which they were made, given that they were crafted from jade and extraordinarily hard rock, it is perplexing that China's ancient Neolithic inhabitants chose this material. Some archaeologists have proposed that they could have been made by brazing and polishing, but that would have taken the creators an exceptionally long time. Others believe that the arrival of the Jade Discs might be pertinent to the curious mystery of the Dropa stone, similar disc-shaped artifacts which reportedly existed before the Jade Discs and were found in a cave in the mountains of Bayan Kara Ula that lies on the China-Tibet border. The Jade Discs have been baffling archaeologists for decades, but since they hail from an era before the invention of writing systems, their purpose and significance remains a mystery. Number 4. The Devil's Bible. The Codex Gigas is the largest known ancient manuscript in the world. In fact, its name literally means giant book. The massive manuscript was created during the 13th century and was initially housed in a monastery in Podlazice. It includes the Old as well as the New Testament, but also a number of shorter texts dealing with matters of significant practicality for its era that included exorcism, medical works, and a calendar. It is commonly referred to as the Devil's Bible because of a detailed, full-page illustration of the devil, and indeed the legends of the single monk who supposedly created the book. A lot of speculation prevails on how the most unholy feature possible found its way into this truly religious text. However, the explanations remain limited. It might be because of the continued suspense that everybody embraces the Codex Gigas, or the Devil's Bible if you will. The weighty manuscript eventually made its way to Stockholm at the end of the 16th century after it was plundered by the Swedish army from the castle of the Holy Roman Emperor during the 30 Years' War. Number 3. Judean stone masks. The 9,000-year-old stone masks that have been excavated and otherwise found around the southern desert of Judea are among the most striking ancient artifacts of the region. To bring their age into perspective, King Solomon is believed to have existed about 3,000 years ago, Abraham just over 1,000 years before that, making these relics the earliest ceremonial treasures that we've come across worldwide. In addition to their age is their exceptional rarity. Only 16 have been verified as the real thing and are known to exist. The ancient Neolithic stone masks are also historically significant, as they were created at the specific time in history that we started to organize ourselves into communities. However, the exact purpose these masks served in a society 9,000 years ago remains a mystery. Much of the mystery has to do with the fact that almost all of the identified Neolithic masks originated from personal collections and have blurred origins without any archaeological backgrounds. Some believe that they could be linked to some form of ancestor worship, as they all have unique features that might have been worn during rituals or ceremonies. To date, only 2 of the 16 masks have definite archaeological backgrounds. One mask was retrieved from a cave at Nahar Hema, and the other mask is one that was purchased by Israeli General Moshe Dayan. Number 2. The Venus Figurines. The Venus Figurines are a collection of prehistoric sculptures of women that were created in the Paleolithic period. To date, more than 200 of these figurines have been discovered, mainly in Europe, but with findings as far as Siberia. Dating back to between 30,000 and 10,000 BC, they all have identical physical features, including voluptuous figures with ample bosoms, posteriors, abdomens, and thighs. Their heads are usually relatively small and deprived of any detail. Further, many of them lack hands and feet. The oldest uncovered to date is the Venus of Holler-Fels, which dates back to 35,000 to 40,000 years ago. There is a significant divergence of views in both archaeological and paleoanthropological research on the possible roles and importance of these artifacts. Some of the various hypotheses put forward include that these figurines were created to stand in as fertility symbols, that they could have been self-portraits, that they were mere Stone Age dolls, that they were possible realistic representations of ordinary women, the ideal depictions of female sexuality, religious images, or even a pornographic imagery counterpart. Number 1. The Ubaid Lizards. During excavations at the Tel al-Ubaid archaeological site in Iraq in the early 1900s, archaeologists uncovered an extraordinary find. Several 7,000-year-old figurines depicting humanoid figures with lizard-like attributes, including elongated heads, small contoured faces, and amygdaloid eyes. Many of the uncovered sculptures seem to have modern headgear on, while their delicately carved clothes suggested some sort of padding or insulation over their shoulder areas. The artifacts depict both male and female figures in a number of poses that represent an everyday life not so different from ours, including figures that carry scepters, presumably as a gesture of justice or righteousness. Much like the Sumerians, the origins of the Ubaidian people have remained obscure. The Ubaidians were, however, the first sophisticated culture in Sumer, and their civilization can be traced back to between around 5,500 and 4,000 BC. They lived in large villages, drained fertile marshes, expanded trade, and formed numerous industries such as leather and metalwork, stonework, pottery, and weaving. The Ubaidi culture eventually gave rise to a pre-Sumerian civilization that influenced and brought about impressive innovations in language and writing, as well as architecture and politics, all paving the way for modern life as we know it today. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below. If you enjoyed this video about ancient artifacts, I've got a channel that often covers ancient artifacts and stuff like that. It's called Side Projects, which I'm going to link to below. And thank you for watching.